Hello, this is Sheshachalam from Astroguide Mysore. Today, let us understand the link between Sarpashapa Yoga and progeny. This has been discussed by many people in detail, but I am also going through this because this is a sequence of classes of yogas and the links between each yoga and their repercussions on another result of other yogas like putra yogas have to be understood. See, because we should not isolate one yoga from its repercussions on other yogas. So people keep asking me, sir, I have Gajakesari yoga, I have Hamsa yoga, I have Malavya yoga, I have Bhadra yoga, Ruchaka yogas, Sasa yoga, Amala yoga. All these yogas, to understand their applicability is great. The results are all wonderful. Like a king, lives like a king, comfortable, great, that, this, and everything. But there are other yogas which are very strong and they not only cancel this yoga but also apply their negative pressure and themselves individually become a very negative yoga. So that means if I say Gajikesri yoga is giving 5 marks to a chart, and if I have this Sarpasapa yoga which is hitting Gajikesri yoga, they are all quite, let us say, they are all positive together. What actually is happening is that if the Sarpashapa yoga is having a higher hand and Gajikesri yoga is having a dormant role or it is recessive, this fellow is dominant and commanding, then what actually is happening is that the Gajikesri yoga will dwindle into a very small yoga. It will only give you a minor status in the family because Gajikesri yoga means you have to get super status, social status. You should be like a known personality in the world. If you have a strong Gajikesri yoga, if you have a normal Gajikesri yoga, you should be a known personality in the community, at least in your society. If you have a very simple Gajikesri yoga, you will be a personality who is respected in the family. So now, how this negative yogas today in particular, I am talking about Sarpashapa yoga, how it affects the fifth house is very important. So, the definition of Sarpashapa yoga, I have done some Sarpashapa yogas, but I will do this in detail one by one later on when I discuss about Putra yogas like Ekaputra yoga, Bahuputra yogas, which I have already done, and some other yogas also. When we do about Putra yogas like Datta Putra yoga, that is adoptions, we will go into the effects, ill effects of Sarpasapa yoga. And here it is a general talk on how it affects and why it affects because Sarpashapa yoga deals with the fifth house prominently. I'm just quoting from the great commentary and book and formulations given by our B.V. Raman, a great personality. We call him as a father of modern astrology for India. And anyway, I being one of the students of the same lineage, though I have not met him personally because we have all studied under the same institute. So I revere him as one of the greatest Gurujis. So, what he has done a list. He has also done a lot of work when he has written a lot of books, authored a lot of books on astrology. These were the basic books which I started studying, like Manual of Hindu Astrology, Catechism of Astrology, great books of by B.V. Raman. So, this is actually, these yogas are actually referred in the epics, in the Bruhat Parashara Hora Shastra and, the Bruhat Jataka, Varaha Mihiras, all these things. So, the fifth house, which is in concern, that is, the fifth should be occupied by Rahu, aspected by Mars. See, just imagine the fifth occupied by Rahu. the serpent, and aspected by Mars from the second house, or from the 11th house, or from the 10th house, the eighth aspect. So, if that is the case, or there are many other formulations like fifth house being the sign of Mars. Like for example, for the ascendant of Sagittarius, the fifth house is the sign of Mars. And if Mars is posited in the second house, exalted in the sign of Capricorn, with Rahu in the fifth house, comes under Sarpasapa Yoga. So the fifth house is for progeny. We all know that the fifth house is Putra Sthana, or Putra in the sense that progeny, not Putra in the sense it's only son. It is not the male gender. It is Putra Karaka, Putra. They have taken it in a normal way of telling Putra, but actually it is Santana Sthana or Santana Yoga Sthana. Fifth house gets afflicted because of this particular placement. However good the fifth house is, it will be afflicted by this Sarpasapa Yoga, and it will be pulled down. The strength of that particular good yoga of the fifth lord being very well placed will be pulled down. But anyway, in this case, when I am referring to Dhanur Lagna, the fifth lord itself is Mars aspecting the fifth house, then people should tell that wow, Mars is fortifying the fifth house. Yes, but once Rahu sits there, Mars succumbs to the pressure of Rahu. And if this particular combination is aspected or combined, conjoined, position, aspect, and conjunction with Saturn, which is retrograde or in a normal way in the fifth house, where it is debilitated in the sign of Aries, Sarpasapa Yoga also gets us, hit of Preta Shapa Yoga kind of a situation. So these are all tough yogas to be discussed online, but still I am trying to, come into these factors. So next is the fifth lord is in conjunction with Rahu. Saturn is in the fifth house, aspected or associated with Moon. Moon is very much referred to in by many authors. And why is Moon referred to for progeny? Yes, I'm just coming out of this Sarpasapa Yoga, where now we discussed about one particular yoga where Rahu is associated, or PAC, that is conjunct aspect and position, but here it is conjunction, where Rahu conjuncts conjoins the fifth lord somewhere in the chart, and Saturn is posited in the fifth house, okay, and is associated or aspected by Moon. And why is this Moon? Because the Saturn Moon combination gives rise to another yoga which is known as Visha Yoga. And how is this going to affect? Because there is nothing to do with the fifth house, no, sir. Only Saturn is there. He doesn't deny, he delays. Yes, there will be a delay, but because this fifth lord is associated with Rahu, there might be a denial also, because the moon is involved. What is moon? Moon is the lord for fertility. So this is the yoga. See, when Venus is the lord for egg and ova and sperm, the strength of the getting a putra, or getting conceiving, because conceiving is not only for Venus, it is only trying to tell you the health of the egg and health of the sperm. Conceiving has to happen if there is a good sun in the chart. Sun is the one which actually gives life, and moon gives fertility. And sun and moon, if they are badly placed in the chart, we are always worried about the fertility option. So when we go into this particular thing, we now know that Saturn and moon are having either conjunction or aspect, so it's hit there once again. So I'll go to the next factor. The factor here is that the karaka for children the Karaka for children. Who is the Karaka for children? It is Jupiter. So is associated with Mars. Rahu is in the ascendant. So this 1, 2, 5 is very important in the horoscope for understanding Kutumbasthana, Lagna to understand the body, the strength of or fertility, the potency, and the fifth house to understand progeny or whether the person will have children. So the I will not go into it in detail because this will become a huge thing. So in the next coming class, let me discuss the various options of Sarpasapa Yoga along with its own cancellation. So understand that when there is a cancellation of a super good yoga like Gajikesari yoga or a beautiful yoga like Malavya yoga, there should also be a cancellation of negative yogas like Sarpashapa yoga, Pretashapa yoga, Matrushapa Sutakshaya yoga. So many other yogas are there where actually the progeny is hit. So we will discuss the negative effects on the negative yogas, which actually makes the chart a little positive. So Mars, Mars very important because it represents the motivation, the strength, the power, and the urge. Rahu, which gets involved with the fifth house or the fifth lord, very clearly suggests impurity, toxic impurity with the fifth, that is progeny. So, and also in the other part of understanding it, it suggests that, Rahu suggests a person's pain, a sorrow, a feeling or dearth, dearth of not having children. The pain of not having children. There are many people whom I have seen, have spoken to. They are not even bothered if there are no children. Uh, I feel good in some, with respect to the attitude of that person. But if a person is having that lot of uh, yearning to have a child, and if he or she is not becoming a parent, that vacuum created because of the Rahu is the one which gives you the sorrow, the pain, which goes through in, it's very deep, very difficult to explain, and it keeps coming every day and keeps haunting you. So this is the other part what Rahu plays in Sarpashapa Yoga. So because this yoga clearly is for understanding um, the number of children which it allows, or if the strength of this yoga is stronger and stronger, it suggests or it indicates what is the effect of this yoga on the longevity of the children. Particularly, you can go by the first child, second child, third child, and then see how it is hitting, because the fifth house is in generally spoken, but if the seventh lord is also getting involved, then the second child is now hit by the Sarpasapa yoga. That is, they will have a child, the second child is now having some problem in conceiving the second child. So the third one, again it will show. So the ninth house, so 5, 7, 9. So we should understand how this particular yoga is posited to understand the well-being of the fertility, and to understand how many children they are blessed with. So the last factor here is again the fifth house being the sign of Mars and Rahu being conjoined by Mercury. This is very, very important. So I'll go through this on the board. Next class will be Sarpasapa Yoga in detail with every factor. So here what happened is that the fifth house being the sign of Mars and Rahu conjoining Mercury. Mercury very clearly is a Napumsaka. What is Napumsaka? It is an important planet. So when Mercury is associated with Rahu, then the factor of impotency can be a negative effect over having children. Impotent doesn't mean that the person is infertile. So please try to understand this. People have a very wrong ideology that every impotent person is infertile. It's nothing like that. There is some medical difficulty wherein the person might become impotent, but he or she is not sterile. So that means children will happen, but they will not have the urge to have a normal physical conjugal life with their partner. So the Rahu, Mercury and Mars, once again this triangle has to be investigated in detail and discussed. So I will be doing it in the coming classes, and thank you very much for today's class.